Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, Kurdish forces launch an offensive to retake Mosul Dam. The governor of Missouri declares a state of emergency after a week of protests. A Pakistan opposition leader urges protesters to show strength. And a Russian aid convoy arrives at a Ukraine border post. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono of the Republic of Indonesia on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono of the Republic of Indonesia on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable of congratulations. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Ali Bongo of the Republic of Gabon on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Ali Bongo of the Republic of Gabon on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable of congratulations. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received at his Diwan in Sif Palace today His Excellency the National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al-Ghanem. His Highness also received at Sif Palace today His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister. His Highness then received His Excellency the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince later received His Excellency the Deputy Premier, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs Sheikh Mohammed Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah. His Highness also received His Excellency the Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence Sheikh Khalid Al-Jarrah Al-Sabah. Finally, His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince received His Excellency the Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs Sheikh Salman Sabah Al-Salim Al-Hmoud Al-Sabah. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has denounced the attempted Israeli step to impose time division and zoning of Al-Aqsa Mosque, saying this is a red line and unacceptable. Palestinians warn that this Israeli step comes under the cover of the offensive on Gaza, while the world is focusing on the indirect Palestinian-Israeli negotiations taking place in Cairo. More in this report by Fatma Abdel Karim from Ramallah.
Israeli authorities closed down the alleys leading to Al-Aqsa Holy Mosque in the Old City in Jerusalem, banning access to it today, except for one group. This group was led by Deputy Knesset Speaker Moshe Fishlan, who stormed into Al-Aqsa Yards this morning and climbed on top of the Dome of the Rock and performed Jewish teachings according to eyewitnesses. Following Fishlan, more settler groups stormed in the Holy City and provoked clashes with Palestinian youth.
The
occupation is intensifying attacks in Al-Aqsa Mosque to override its sovereignty through all details, allowing settlers to enter for long hours, jeopardizing the sacredness of the site.
Palestinians denounced what they described as systematic provocations by settlers and Israeli official authorities. And on the political level, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas strongly criticized Israel's attack on Al-Aqsa Mosque, as the Israeli authorities attempt to divide the holy Muslim mosque in timing and space zoning to allow easier and protected access to more Jewish settler groups and pave the way to take over Al-Aqsa.
Even during the war, Israeli occupation did not stop its schemes and raids into Al-Aqsa. On the contrary, it did carry out its plans and division of Al-Aqsa by allocating certain hours for Jewish tourists to enter the mosque while banning the Palestinians.
As indirect talks carry on in Cairo between Palestinians and Israelis, the Palestinian president addressed the leadership and affirmed that both Gaza and Jerusalem are top national priorities at the moment and that Al-Aqsa represents a red line. Under the cover of smoke and rubble in Gaza, and as the world carefully watches the Cairo talks, Israel pursues more steps towards legalizing an apartheid system under military rules against Palestinians, with steps such as partitioning Al-Aqsa Mosque. Fatma Abdul Karim, Kuwait TV, Ramallah, Palestine.
Kurdish forces have launched a ground offensive to seize control of Iraq's strategic Mosul dam from militants as US airstrikes continued for a third day. The airstrikes involving manned and unmanned jet fighters are continuing around the dam as Iraqi ground forces and Kurdish Peshmerga fighters are involved in an extensive ground operation to retake the dam. The Kurdish offensive against the dam came amid reports of another massacre by the militants. A senior U.S. defense official said U.S. surveillance drones saw evidence of the massacre of dozens of Yazidi men. The latest killings came just a day after President Barack Obama said U.S.-led airstrikes had broken the siege by the militants against the minorities trapped on a mountain in northern Iraq. Obama made it clear the U.S. mission in the region is not yet over. UN Nuclear Agency Chief Yukiya Amano began talks in Tehran today with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and other senior officials to push for progress in a long-running investigation into Iran's suspected atomic bomb research. Amano's arrival late yesterday on his second visit to Iran since the election of Rouhani comes ahead of an August 25th deadline for Iran to provide information relevant to the International Atomic Energy Agency's or the IAEA's inquiry into what it calls the possible military dimensions of the country's disputed nuclear program. The issue is closely tied to high-profile nuclear negotiations with 6 world powers aimed at resolving the decade-old standoff over Tehran's atomic activity, suspected by the West of having military objectives. No details have emerged from the IAEA's chief meetings with President Rouhani or Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif, who leads Iran's negotiating team with the world powers, that's the United States, Britain, France, Germany, Russia and China. The governor of Missouri declared a state of emergency and imposed a curfew in an attempt to restore order after a week of protest and looting following the shooting of a teenager. More details with Mahmoud Abu Zaid.
Governor Jay Nixon of Missouri declares a state of emergency and imposes a curfew in the city of Ferguson, where tensions are running high. The announcement comes after a week of protests following the shooting death of a teenager, Michael Brown, who was fatally shot on August 9.
I signed an order declaring a state of emergency and ordering the implementation of a curfew in the impacted area of Ferguson. Again, this is not to silence the people of Ferguson or this region or others, but to contain those who are drowning out the voice of the people with their actions. We will not allow a handful of looters to endanger the rest of this community. We still need more answers about what happened 1 week ago at Campfield Green. And I will continue to push for those answers and demand transparency and accountability and expediency. I will tell you there's a lot of people working on that right now, a lot of people. But if we're going to achieve justice, we must first have and maintain peace. This is a test. The eyes of the world are watching. This is a test of whether a community, this community, any community, can break the cycle of fear, distrust, and violence and replace them with peace, strength, and ultimately justice. It will not happen in one night. But that is where we will start.
Meanwhile, 7 people were arrested early today as police used smoke and tear gas to impose a curfew in St. Louis district. Missouri State Highway Patrol Captain Ron Johnson said 1 person was critically wounded after being shot and police are seeking the shooter. Johnson defended his department's strong strategic response that came after a midnight to 5 a.m. curfew took hold in Ferguson, Missouri.
The governor has enacted a curfew to allow us to provide safety for the citizens of Ferguson, but also to maintain the right of the people. That curfew will start today. It would run from 12 midnight is when the curfew will start to 5 in the morning. We will enforce that curfew in an effort to provide safety and security to the area.
6 suspected Al-Qaeda militants and 3 Yemeni troops died in clashes today in Yemen's southeastern province of Hadramaut. The Defense Ministry's website quoted an unnamed military source as saying that 5 militants were arrested as army troops raided a house in Al-Khatan town where a terrorist cell was holding up. The source added that 5 soldiers were injured in the clashes. Another military source said 4 people were arrested from a house in the Hadramaut town of Khatan. Pakistani opposition politician Imran Khan, who is leading one of 2 large anti-government demonstrations in the capital Islamabad, has called on followers to show their strength as he tries to force the government to resign. His call today followed a warning he had given yesterday that his supporters wanted to march on Parliament House and he was struggling to hold them back. Khan and cleric Tahirul Qadri both led tens of thousands of supporters to downtown Islamabad on Friday, and both protest leaders said they would stay in the streets until Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, whom they condemned as corrupt, was forced to resign. The protests have raised worries about Pakistan's stability barely a year after Sharif took power in a landslide election win that marked the first democratic transfer of power in the history of the nuclear-armed nation of 180 million people. Trucks from a Russian convoy carrying aid to eastern Ukraine have reached a border post controlled by separatists. It seems unlikely that they will cross into Ukraine immediately, as the Red Cross said it had still not received security guarantees for the convoy to continue. Earlier, Ukraine's military said that separatists had shot down a government fighter jet near the rebel-held city of Luhansk in the east of the country. A military spokesman said the pilot had ejected and was safe. Ukraine's government has sent troops to put down an uprising by pro-Russian separatists in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, but it faced a new challenge today as the leader of the ultra-nationalist right sector threatened to withdraw volunteers fighting on the government's side. The Avenues Mall recently concluded its Weight of Love initiative for receiving donations of gifts and toys for all needy children in collaboration with the Kuwait Red Crescent Society. The initiative was launched during the early stages of the holy month of Ramadan. The target time to distribute the toys to the children was set after the conclusion of the holy month of Ramadan by a couple of weeks. More on this in the report with our correspondent Ghinwa Japouri.
The Avenues Mall, in collaboration with the Red Crescent Society, held a closing ceremony which included emptying an initiative drop box to proceed with distribution of all gifts and toys directly to disadvantaged children.
Especially in Ramadan, people like to donate, and we want the people to keep donating all the year, not except in Ramadan. And inshallah, we will have a lot of projects all the year for inside of Kuwait and outside of Kuwait. And we want the people to donate, and without this charity, we can't work.
The initiative is a giving platform in which the Avenues proudly partakes towards community outreach, as well as its reflection to corporate social responsibility during the holy month of Ramadan. In recognition of disadvantaged children, the initiative inspired society members to give dolls and toys, and which society did so generously.
I want to tell you about the toy for the Syrian.
The Weight of Love initiative is a gesture by the Avenues towards engaging all visitors the opportunity to contribute and donate to children an array of gifts and toys in a drop box situated at the Grand Avenues. Weight of Love, a Red Crescent Society initiative bringing joy and happiness to children and orphans. From the Avenues Mall, I'm Ghinwa Japouri reporting to you for the English News.
The Kuwait Stock Exchange ended today's trading on mixed board as the price index reached 7,266 points, gaining 31.9 points. The weighted index gained 0.81 points and the KSX 15 lost 2.61 points. The number of trades came to 4,155 with a value of 15.3 million Kuwaiti dinars and a volume of 189.4 million shares. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap our news, here's the headlines once again. Kurdish forces launch an offensive to retake Mosul Dam. The governor of Missouri declares a state of emergency after a week of protests. A Pakistan opposition leader urges protesters to show strength. And a Russian aid convoy arrives at a Ukraine border post. Thank you for joining us.